For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson now joins us from London. Great to have you, Michael Wilson. Morning.
Good morning all. New Zealand, let me take you there first of all. Interest rates up 0.5%, 50 basis points. The latest that they're doing to try to tackle inflation. Remember, they closed their borders. They're now limitedly open, but still inflation, a bit of a problem there. Japan stocks doing quite well. Mixed trade elsewhere, basically, as far as Asia Pacific's concerned. Shanghai down very, very slightly. Two Chinese companies, Meituan, the food delivery giant, and also Tencent planning to sell the majority of its 24 billion stake in Meituan. Japan's Nikkei, as I said, slightly up. Kospi sort of reversed it. The China's premier has been calling upon the country's provinces to offer economic support to boost pro-growth measures. And what he actually means by that, not presumably quite sure, but presumably in an economy like that means work a bit harder. Taiwan tensions are forcing multinationals to rethink the risk on China. They're drawing up contingencies. In particular, this is a quote from the EU Chamber of Commerce, blockades and the fact that the companies are lacking, as it were, exit points from China and from Taiwan, points to the lack of alternatives elsewhere. Boston Consulting, the consulting firm, as its name suggests, has been doing a little bit of work on the relationship between Taiwan and China, and it's concluding that Taiwan needs Taiwan's biggest chip maker more than vice versa, and also Beijing, as you know, halted trade between Taiwan and China because of the visit of U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi last month. Whether that's actually, but interestingly, the ban did not touch electronics, which may point towards that. And we all know what the weaponizing of economic measures is, given what's happening in Russia versus Ukraine. US stock prices flat basically, but yesterday a huge increase in both the Dow and the S&P 500. Retailers led the market higher. I make no excuses for this. I did talk about this with Reuters yesterday, and it is in a sense yesterday's story, but it's worth mentioning this morning that Walmart has stuck with its second half outlook, i.e., assuming that there will be slightly less growth next year, but still emphasizing the need on shoppers looking for lower priced goods given the rise of inflation. Speaking of which, the US President Joe Biden has signed the Inflation Reduction Act into law. This renamed, actually, it was going to be called the Infrastructure, Build America Better plan and all the rest of it. It's now been reduced from 1.7, Build Back Better it was called, now been reduced from 1.75 trillion to 437 billion. That is the cost of trying to get it through beyond political. Whether it'll actually reduce inflation remains to be seen. Inflation here in the UK hits 10.1%. I suspect it'll probably be much higher by the end of the year. The Bank of England doesn't really decide upon interest rates until September. I don't think it'd be any surprise to see a half a percent interest rate rise there, maybe more, depending on what happens. But the fact of this, as in most countries, the sort of inflation that we're seeing hits those on the poorest incomes the most, because it's talking about food and energy, and thus there is a real thing in Europe, at least, whether to heat or to eat as the winter begins its bite in a couple of months' time. UK hospitality industry has lost 200,000 workers after Brexit. The pool of workers from the EU is down 41%. Hospitality is 7% of the UK workforce and roughly about that of the GDP as well. So it's quite an important sector losing out there. As far as gas prices are going to come on to those in a second, but the UK is to receive its first shipment of Australian gas next week. Not usually selling gas that so far afield, but we're going to get some of that because of all the alternatives. And speaking of that, let us look at oil and commodities in general. And gas prices have been leaping on both sides of the Atlantic, up by 10% now. This would be gas prices are now, if you would look at an oil equivalent of $400 a barrel. So really, those gas prices are very, very high at the moment, and traders are pushing the price up at the moment because they're feeling a great competition now for seaborne liquid natural gas, which may come from Asia. That is the global view this morning.
All right, Michael, let me start from what we were talking about yesterday. We're trying to distinguish between rising prices and inflation. And you were saying, yes, rising prices don't necessarily mean inflation. I'd like to, press that even further by saying, then what leads to inflation if the parameters for prices are not rising and CPI is not on the increase? Because that's what's happening across the world as we speak. And I also made an allusion that it might probably go back to cost of logistics and the likes, and the new numbers Americans are getting out of inflation, that things look on the downward trend now, might probably be because cost of logistics is reducing. I mean, I don't know the things that make up the cost of a commodity. And I also want to talk about jobs in the UK. There are startling reports now that wages might even be going down, that the furlough high is peaking.
As far as inflation is concerned, I was just trying to point out yesterday, when we were talking about it, that the RPI, the retail price index, or the CPI, doesn't matter what it's called. I know what say it's called the CPI. I know it's called in your country. Say it's the same in the US, and all that is a measure of rising prices. What it doesn't do, even though that may fall. My point is that those prices are still high. The fact that they're not rising at the same rate as they were doesn't mean those prices are not high. So that's what actually happens. Inflation is caused traditionally by huge demand on dwindling resources. Dwindling resources, huge demand, prices go up. That's inflation for you. And what we're seeing is, in this country particularly, that it's eroding the way in which wages are increasing, which means that people are effectively earning less because of the rise of inflation. Now, if that rate falls, as it probably will because it's a year-on-year figure, it will only be reflecting the higher prices of the year before. See what I mean? So it's a measure of the rate of prices rising. It's not to do with higher prices. We have to be stuck. We will be stuck with higher prices. As far as jobs in the UK is concerned, it's clear that after Brexit, there were certain kind of visa restrictions on people coming into the country. Those don't apply anymore. Skilled workers are still welcome, as they are in most countries, provided their visas reflect that. What UK employers are saying, there's still too much red tape. Liz Truss is on one of the Conservative Party leaders, is on the front of a number of newspapers. Effectively, the headline is UK workers are lazy. That could well be the case. Who would deny something like that? The fact of it is that what UK workers don't achieve is this golden world called productivity. That's what they don't do. In other words, they go into work, but they're not necessarily turning out the same kind of goods per hour or per pound or whatever it may be spent, or per dollar spent on their employment. That's productivity, and that's where this country falls behind. So we have a difficult jobs situation here, and it's down to people to take it into their own hands. I was saying on an earlier radio station here in the UK, it's all right, everybody's saying the government ought to help. Actually, do you know where the help comes from? Usually from us, from the consumers. That's where it comes from. Don't want so much. Be content with eating less, maybe, heating less, maybe. Go round to your neighbours, knock on the door, look after the old and the poor. Simple as that.
Okay, quickly. I mean, the wages data released by the Office for National Statistics in the UK. Yes, grim. Yes, we're being told also that low-paid workers will bear the brunt, even if what we're seeing is inflation eating into our wages. But would this necessarily put pressure, as many of the analysts are arguing, on the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee to raise rates further, because that's what is being suggested? As for Liz Truss, well, she says she made that comment about 10 years ago, even if she did not deny it, and that her argument is for productivity, which you alluded to, and economic growth. Now, you talked about gas, Australian gas, LNG. First time in 6 years that Australia will be selling gas to the UK. Does the UK really need gas from Australia, considering that there are issues in terms of storage capacity? The UK already gets gas from the North Sea, from Norway, from Qatar, and also from the United States. Is the UK trying to do quick business with gas Is the UK planning to go and sell to continental Europe, where gas supply is a much bigger problem? And then finally, if you have time, are we witnessing the end of globalization, or the proclaimed end of globalization in the face of lockdowns, protectionism, precautionary measures being taken by countries? Is it exaggerated? And I bring this up because of your reference to China and Taiwan and the cross-strait, crisis that we have in that axis.
I regret to agree with you. I think we are seeing the end of a certain part of globalization. I think countries are looking forward to onshoring a lot of the things that they didn't think they need to, and geopolitical problems have a great deal to do with that. I think we should leave it there. I can see exactly what you're saying. I think you're right. I think we are seeing the end of bits of globalization. I hope it's not the end of globalization. If it's down to friend shoring, which the United States appears to be in favor of, then I think I am. As far as inflation is concerned in this country, I think I've run through that basically. I mean, it is a measure of the rising cost of prices. It will fall to within the Bank of England. Is the Bank of England under pressure to raise interest rates? Of course it is. And of course that they will raise in September when they next have an opportunity to do that. The minimum that they will raise is 0.5%. It may be slightly more, but it's very much. I mean, what they should be doing is looking at it right now, not waiting until another 2 weeks until September, because all sorts of things can change before then. As we've seen with gas prices, is the UK possibly acting as an intermediary from Australia, stored a little bit in the UK, or maybe just staying on the ship and then re-exported to the EU? It's always done that. I mean, yes, it could be that more storage space, which has recently been closed here on a very mistaken premise of the fact it won't be needed anymore, will be rapidly opened, and maybe we'll store it here. I think we should just watch the story, but I think your suspicions are entirely correct.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael. Now for business updates across the African continent, Rotus Adiri joins us. Great to have you, Rotus.
Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning to all our viewers. Yeah, we begin with malaria. President Buhari at the State House in Abuja inaugurated a 16-man council, End Malaria Council. He says that, and in fact, Aliko Dangote, founder and chair of the Dangote Group, he is the chair of that End Malaria Council. But President Buhari says, with if they can end malaria soon enough, they can save about 687 billion naira in 2022 or so, and about 2 trillion by 2030. So he cited a World Health Organization report which stated that I think Nigeria accounts for about 27% of all malaria cases worldwide. And so, he said, his choice of Dangote as the chair of the council was because of his track record in health initiatives. And he talked about, pretty much how much money we can save. Now, the thing, though, I don't know if this was pointed out by either of you, is that there's a bit of irony here when we talk about the president wanting to, save money, because there's him saying that you can save up to 2 trillion naira by eradicating or eliminating malaria. And then the IMF is saying you can save up to 6 trillion if you eradicate subsidies, if you remove fuel subsidies. So, and the firepower that you would get from eliminating subsidies would allow you to, just pick whatever issue that you want to face in Nigeria. You could actually do that. So, it's really, the president kind of walked into that, because that is still the prevailing issue. And if he is ever to speak about saving money, I think the subsidy issue, it simply has to be number one. We move to, I believe, real estate's, actually no, there's a Wall Street Journal article which talks about Saudi Arabia. Look at this. Flush with oil profits, Saudi Arabia pours $7.5 billion into US stocks, from Amazon to Microsoft. Their wealth fund has essentially been enjoying a windfall from oil profits, and they've now started to say, okay, where can we diversify, and where can we put this money? And look, if you want to take investment direction, if you are, watching this right now and you are flush with cash and you're like, okay, where do we, put funds? You can take direction from wealth funds and where they're going. So these are blue chip stocks that they are picking on the US stock exchange, from your Amazons to your Microsofts to your Apples and so on and so forth. But again, you bring this back home. I actually tweeted this, and someone responded to me on Twitter where he said, but Nigeria is struggling when other oil producing countries are generating huge profits from high oil prices and deploying the windfall into other investments. So again, it's another reminder that oil theft is not allowing us to enjoy high profits from oil proceeds. And you think about our own sovereign wealth fund. I mean, just think of all the things we want to do with what we could have made from oil proceeds. So it's a very big issue. And again, we have Saudi Arabia reminding us of that. To real estate. I believe there was I think it was a business day. There was a real estate player in the real estate space that was talking about how prices on the island have, gone up by over 100% from pre-COVID to this period. For example, Banana Island being one of them. I think we can take a look at the prices. So if you look at I think it's gone from, let's see now, 600,000 naira per square meter pre-COVID. That's 2019 through to year to date 2022 to 1.3 million per square meter. Old Ikoyi and the environs, 380,000 per square meter to as much as 950,000. Lekki Phase 1 here from 200,000 to about 400,000. And there's land scarcity, high demand, devaluation of the currency, high inflation. All these factors. Real estate, I think real estate GDP for the second quarter did about 3.5%. It was in recession for a couple of years, but it's emerged from that. And the high-end luxury market, luxury real estate market is really pushing that forward. However, another second irony today is that even with this high demand, even with empty buildings, it's still a seller's market. Despite the high demand, so sellers are able to basically name their price. Even the Igbeju Lekki area, that seems to be coming up because of the Dangote refinery, and that particular area, land prices are appreciating there. So look, this is pretty much the only asset class outside of the US dollar itself, if you treat that as an asset class, that is head and shoulders above inflation. But of course, it caters to the top 1%. Mm-hmm. Even when it was 600,000 per square meter pre-COVID for a Banana Island, plots of land, that's really, really expensive. So as far as the middle class and others, there's still a bit of a challenge there. So that's essentially what we have been, our African business update for today.
All right, Virtus, real quickly. You see, and that's why when people come out to make arguments that the reason for our problem is Russia-Ukraine crisis. They've been making a lot of that argument. I'm like, Please stop making that argument. Crude oil theft
is huge. This
administration was crying that oil is not $100 per barrel. Oil is not that if oil is $100 per barrel, will do wonders. Oil is $100 per barrel since January now. What American wonder have they done? Nothing.
Yeah.
Because we kept on talking about crude oil theft. And crude oil theft ruins everything. Rotus, this is the first war that Nigeria has not benefited from. Yom Kippur, Nigeria got so rich in 73 that Yakubu Gowon said the problem is not money but how to spend it. We forget that statement a lot. Nigeria got so rich because crude oil price rose from $3 per barrel to $12 per barrel after Yom Kippur war. But what do? We wasted the money now. That was when we had the cement armada, that we imported the highest amount of cement in the world, and everything was left to fritter away at the ports. All our savings from that time, we wasted it. As at 81, 82, we already have recession knocking. Then we blame the Ghanaians for our problem and say Ghana must go. 1991, 92 again, Gulf War. Nigeria became rich. Is that not where we got the money to start Petroleum Trust Fund?
Correct.
From the Gulf War savings?
Yep.
Every war we used to celebrate because we know crude oil price will go up. This is the first war that has even become inimical to Nigeria's economy. So when they come out and say Russia-Ukraine crisis, it's not a valid argument. It's a deadpan argument. because oil theft, which is it me that we take responsibility to oil theft when there's a government on ground? You're supposed to solve the problem of oil theft. So please, nobody should ever come and make argument about Russia and Ukraine crisis. War used to favor Nigeria. The reason why wars don't favor us any longer, this Ukraine crisis, is because of mismanagement.
True.
And that's why you see other countries, see what they are doing. Saudi Arabia is cashing out.
7.5 billion.
7.5 billion. And you know what they're doing? Putting it in portfolio investments. Just like what Norway too is doing.
Yeah.
In fact, Norway is so rich now that each citizen of Norway, they can have, if they put the money in their sovereign investment fund and say they want to distribute it, they will distribute $100,000 for each citizen.
It's a lot.
Okay.
But I hope we are learning from this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because we are not learning and we tell ourselves lies. You're Shina, you're a Kangai. Good thinking, good product. We are not thinking well. God will bless this country.
Okay, let me talk about malaria. I think it's a good thing that President Muhammadu Buhari and the federal government of Nigeria have set up
End Malaria Council.
End Malaria Council.
Yes.
It's a 16-man panel with Aliko Dangote, chairman, president of the Dangote Group as chairperson. And I think it's a good choice given the commitment of the Dangote Foundation to a number of public causes, not just in Nigeria, but also across Africa. Other members of that End Malaria Council, EMC, include the governor of Ekiti State, the chairman of the UBA Group, Tony Elumelu, Mrs. Folorunsho Alakija is also part of that group. The Emeritus Archbishop of the Catholic Church in Abuja, John Cardinal Onayekan, is also a member of that group. You also have bankers like Herbert Wigwe. That's Access Bank, right?
That's correct.
You have quite a number, of other persons. So 16 persons looking at this. Now, why I think it's commendable is that, look, in the context of COVID-19, many countries, not just Nigeria, took their eyes off the ball, other public health challenges. So it's good to see, Nigeria now focusing on malaria and saying, look, an End Malaria Council will be useful. So from a public health perspective, it is, in my view, commendable. Now, you made a point that the president says Nigeria will save about 2 trillion, focusing on malaria. Yep. Well, this is not the first time that Nigeria is talking about malaria. Malaria accounts for about 27% of cases of, malaria in Africa alone. And that's probably because of our population. And 32% of deaths worldwide, according to the WHO. And of course, that malaria has been a major life-threatening disease in Africa. Hence, the Gulf of Guinea was referred to during the colonial period as the white man's graveyard. Now, but we have also seen that beyond the colonial period, malaria is responsible for major deaths, under 5 infant mortality, maternal morbidity, maternal mortality. So it's a very serious public health issue. And Nigeria prioritizing it, trying to attack the Anopheles mosquito, which is responsible for malaria, is consistent with the position of the African Union. The African Union has a group that is called the African Malaria Medical Alliance, which is led by President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya. There's also a Global Malaria Council. So all of this that the Nigerian government has done is consistent, with focusing on public health issues beyond COVID-19. That's the significance for me. And I don't think we should stretch the argument by talking about how we should worry more about fuel subsidy and all that. Yeah, fuel subsidy is in a category of its own, right? It's something we should worry about. Yes, you say we will save 6 trillion if we deal with it. But at the same time, we also have to worry about public health. Not just malaria, there are also other issues out there, that are critical public health issues that government should worry about, and also develop infrastructure, mobilize people. And I hope that this End Malaria Council will not end at the level of ceremony and inauguration. That council would pay attention. Previously, before now, we were in those days when I used to do health NGO work, we used to talk about malaria treatment nets, you know, at the time, Nigeria was focusing on all of that, but it's an important issue. Now, as for Banana Island, the cost of land in Banana Island, how is that for ordinary people like us a priority?
It's a real estate investment.
When I go to Banana Island, I even look for banana trees. I don't see. I don't know whether it is a banana they eat there or other forms of berry.
The island is shaped like a banana.
The big issue, you know, perhaps is the real estate sector.
Yes.
Is the real estate sector in Nigeria, is it profitable? Yes, it is. You know, so if we stretch it beyond the Banana Island. But is the real estate sector also affected by the crisis of inflation in Nigeria? Yes, it is.
It is.
If we're not careful, the other day, the Minister of Works and Housing was talking about abandoned homes in Abuja and government of Nigeria trying to do an audit. But the bigger problem is that, look, that real estate sector is as affected by inflation and economic mismanagement as the aviation sector is, as our stomachs have been also affected.
Yes.
If inflation hits your stomach, nobody needs to tell you before you know it. And the bigger question in this regard is that why is it that other measures adopted by other countries to address inflation? Okay, the classical thing is, you know, raising interest rates. Okay, the Central Bank of Nigeria, when was the last time they looked at interest rate? Was it July? Okay, they raised it. It has not had any impact.
That's true.
Because the operative determining factors that work in other places don't work here. We are not producing anything. We are import dependent. So even when these policies are introduced, we don't see any effect. So every sector is not just Banana Island. Banana, how many people live in Banana Island?
All the Koreans?
The people there, they constitute a minority. Go and help check the real estate crisis in Ajangbadi, in Ajegunle, in Yanokpaja, and the crisis that people face, and the crippling homelessness of many Nigerians who cannot pay landlords, who cannot buy land, and the menace of bricklayers. Do you know how much a bag of cement is now? Do you know how much they are cutting one block of to construct this thing? This is a problem that people are facing. People in Banana Island, if they like, they eat banana. Let them deal with their problems. Let us talk about how to provide homes for the Nigerian poor.
True. Agreed. Preach on, doctor. Preach on. Very much agreed.
And coupled with all of this, the flooding not be here for the banana.
That's another matter.
Sorry. Somebody will have thought that with the amount they are paying in real estate fees, that at least we'll do drainage. And so that when it rains, it doesn't flood.
Good
but
point.
You see, Nigeria can be a scam sometimes. The highbrow areas are the most flooded areas.
Very true.
And if you wonder what's happening with drainage, just go and check, look through the drainage channels in that same place.
And how the whole city shuts down when it rains heavily. Yeah.